preach a revival, which will be my first. And praise the Lord for opening doors. I mean, Brother Danny's taken kind of a liking to me, and I've got to preach there a couple of times. But I'll tell you what, we did go down there Friday night. Brother Dalton preached outstanding as usual. But we met another brother, Brother Tommy Land, from over in Milan. And he talked about something that I've talked about here before. He talked about we all believe our Bible. We believe that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was a mighty God. We believe that the God of Peter, James, and John was a mighty God. But the problem is that we don't believe the God of today is a mighty God.
Yeah.
Because if we did, a whole lot more hind ends in these pews. If we believed in an almighty God the way that they did back in the day of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that when fire fell for Elijah, when things actually happened that they would call miracles,
Right.
we would believe in an almighty God of today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brother Reese was joking about that chainsaw and that tree falling on that car, but I'm going to tell you what. We've been plagued with beetles in our pine trees for the past 3 years. And we have cut 50 trees. The tree that fell on this car did not have a chainsaw touch it. And there's evidence. But I'm serious now.
That's your story.
God can do things. We're sitting here wondering, and Judy's bewildered on how she's going to get around. And, when you're on a fixed income of Social Security and you don't know where them extra dollars are going to come from, sometimes God will give you that peace.
Yeah.
Like she said, God will give you that peace that you can let go. It's like, now there's nothing I can do. This can be fixed, but now there's nothing I can do.
Right.
Sometimes God will either open or close a door or a window and let us know.
Right.
But some things you've got to let go of.
Yeah.
Some things are worth holding on to.
Amen.
But some things in our lives, we've just got to have that peace that only God can give to let go of. Like I said, we went down to that meeting the other night, and he's preaching about this almighty God of today. How many of us can we look back on the last couple of weeks or last year of our lives and say that God walked in?
Yeah.
Mercy walked in. Brother Dewey, you can attest to it more than anybody.
Amen.
You and Miss Michelle, y'all can tell us exactly what God did in a moment in time in your life. When if you didn't know Him, what would you have done?
Right.
If you didn't have that peace when you were in that hospital bed, when you were in that room up here at Phoebe and they were saying, we've got to get you out of here and get you somewhere better. You had a peace.
Right.
God gave you that in a moment in time, but it wasn't back in Abraham's time. It wasn't in Isaac's time. It wasn't Peter, James, and Paul's time. It was Dewey Willis's time.
Right.
There's a time now for God to be with each and every one of us, and it's not just the time of our forefathers.
Right.
Now is the time.
That's right.
Now is the time that we've got to go and tell things just like what happened to you, what happened for Miss Judy's car, what's going to happen for her Tuesday. We got to go out and tell what's happening now. Yes, we can preach the Bible. We can preach the Old Testament, but now there's a time for us.
Yeah.
Like I said, He's a God of the past. He's a God of the future. He promises that He's coming back and He's taking us all to glory, but there's a God of now.
Right.
There's a God of 2019. Let Him be the God in 2019 of Greater Vision Baptist Church.
Right.
Let Him be the God that's going to fill these pews because we go out and tell what He does for us on a daily basis. Not what He did for Abraham, not what He did for Adam when He got him out. He had to take him out of the garden because he sinned. But what He's doing for us today. Let God of today be God of today. I like living in the past. I can tell you about a meal I had 2 weeks ago that I thoroughly enjoyed. I can think about what I'm going to have this afternoon for lunch. But I want to eat right now.
Yeah.
I want to eat today. When we're in this sanctuary, I want the meal for today that God has placed on Brother Reese's heart to give us.
Oh, yeah.
That's
We
right.
can't live. I love the accounts in this Bible. I love it. Like I said, word, cover to cover. But
there's a God of now. There's not a book written of today. This book is written for today, but it's not written during today. As we live our lives, we are writing that book.
Yeah.
And the only way anybody's ever going to see any publishment of it is if we publish it with our mouth.
That's right.
If we go out and tell what the God of today is doing, because
Right.
look around. We were talking about it earlier. Some of the churches don't even have Wednesday night service anymore.
Right.
A lot of them have dropped Sunday night services. They come in Sunday morning, and to be honest with you, I think that's just so they can take up the tithes and offerings. If it wasn't for that, if everybody would give online, like we was talking about, I don't think there'd be that many people in the church. Because people are falling away because they don't believe in a God of today. You know what the unbelief is? They don't believe sin has a consequence. They don't believe that, sin has become so commonplace that we don't even look at a lot of sins as sin anymore.
Right.
It's become so commonplace, just like when it starts out with the gay marriage and now with the abortions and all that stuff, eventually it's not going to be a sin, it's going to be just unmoral.
Yeah.
And you're going to look at somebody's like, you're not sinning by doing what you're doing. It's just something that everybody does, especially the church, doesn't approve of. It's still sin.
Sure it is.
No matter what it is, if it says it's sin in that Word of God, it's still sin of today.
That's right.
And the biggest sin we have right now, I believe, in our lifetime that we're living through is the sin of unbelief.
Yeah.
The sin that people do not believe that God is a God of righteousness. Everybody says He's a God of love, He's a God of mercy. Yes, He is, but He's a God of righteousness. He's going to hold us accountable as to how we live. He's going to hold us accountable as to what we put up with. Like we were talking about in Sunday school, or after Sunday school, where people are putting up with this abortion thing that's running rampant right now. Up until the time of birth, even after the moment of birth, they can still say, I don't want this child aborted. What is the purpose of that? It's just the devil getting his hands on us.
Sure.
That's all it is. It's just another way for the devil to say that sin is not sin because it becomes permissible.
Right.
What we've got to remember, there is a God of today.
Yeah.
There's a God of the past, but He's still the same God today. That book still applies. Those laws still apply. Those precepts still apply. The God of the future that's coming back to take those that do truly believe and truly honor Him with their life. He's coming back to take us, and He's that God of the future. But we do have a God of the present.
Right.
We have to adhere to His precepts now. We have to adhere to the lifestyle now. It's not a past thing. It's not all a present thing. It's a now thing.